Hello everyone, this is Donnie, aka Elevated with Dota Alchemy, and today's video is going to be by request, and we are going to be talking about how to optimize your hotkeys, how to control your heroes better, and ultimately improve your gaming experience in Dota 2. I have taken a fairly scientific approach to building my hotkeys on this game, and so I just wanted to share that with you, and I don't think that necessarily my hotkeys are the best. I don't think that they will be the most comfortable for everybody. They do kind of rely a little bit on the hardware that I'm using. You don't have to absolutely copy these hotkeys, but I do want to kind of explain them and why they are the way that they are, so that when you create your hotkeys, you can understand both the importance of having good hotkeys, but also that you can kind of be creative and efficient in how you set them up so that you can have the best gaming experience and improve the way that you play the game. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the abilities first. I'd say that the abilities are probably the most important part of how you play your hero, followed closely by the items. So I just use the basic QWER, D and F as the sort of secondary abilities for heroes that have more than just 4 spells. And for me, this just makes the most sense. I've played a lot of FPSs using the AWSD to control. My hands just kind of naturally sit there. I've been gaming on PCs for a long time. QWER is fairly natural for my left hand to rest. And so I didn't feel any need to change these. And I do not use unit specific hotkeys, and I do not use legacy keys, because I think that, at least for me, I think that these keys being the same for all heroes is just simple enough to where I'm not going to mess anything up with the abilities. So from there, if you know that those 4 keys are your kind of home row, I don't know if anybody took typing classes back in the day, but home row keys were something that was stressed a lot because it's easy to reach other keys from the home row. So for me, the home row is QWER. So from there, let's actually go ahead and look at the unit control stuff. Right above the Q key is the 1 key, and that is what I use to select my hero. I'm generally using my ring finger, my middle finger, and my pointer finger to hit all of these keys. I tend to not use my pinky very much just because I don't really feel like my pinky is very agile. I play guitar as well, and my pinky is something that I tend to use fairly sparingly just because I don't feel like my pinky is very strong or accurate or fast. So I use just 3 fingers to hit all of these keys, and the 1 key is the most accessible for selecting my hero, so that's what I use. To select all controlled units, I have number 2. So if I were to spawn a bunch of Necro units or wolves or whatever, or Manta illusions, for example, on number 3, I have group 3. So this can be any unit that I bind there. It tends to usually be a Helm of the Dominator unit. 4 is another bound unit, so that could be, you know, a disconnected person's hero or a second creep if I'm playing something like Chen, but I don't really play Chen, so I don't have all the control groups set up. But if you wanted to go a little crazy, you could add, you know, a whole bunch of other control groups all the way up to 0, and then you'd be a StarCraft professional probably. And 5 for me is Courier. Just is a nice place. I can hit my 1 with a pinky and then 5 with my pointer finger. It's just a very easy reach, and it's right above the R key, so it makes it all very accessible to me. I don't have to move my hand at all to hit any of these kind of important units that I would want to control in a game. After that, I have my items, and items I would say are probably the second or third most important part to control, and they are also mapped in a way, and I've tinkered more with items than any other control groups in the game, just because I used to have sort of just random ones, and even though I memorized them, they just didn't feel good if I was trying to cast multiple items at the same time. So what I've done is I have spacebar as the first item slot, X, C, V, and B. And if you look at your keyboard, most likely you have QWER, then you have ASDF. This is just kind of a relic of my days of playing Dota 1 and StarCraft and stuff like that, where A was always attack, and so sometimes I still use that even though I could just right click to accomplish the same thing. S is stop, and this is what I use to cancel, you know, spell casts or attack animations if I am wanting to better time my last hit or something like that. So D and F being these other ability keys, I can't use ASD or F for my items. And so that means that the next row down is Z, X, C, V, and B. Z is the closest key, but it's also the most uncomfortable key for me to hit if I wanted to be selecting my hero and then using an item on it. It weirdly contorts my hand, and so I skipped Z. I don't think I really even have Z bound to anything just because it feels so weird to press that button to me. So I have X is very easy for me to press with my pointer finger. C is also very easy for me to press my pointer finger. V is fairly easy for me to press with my pointer finger. And then B is kind of the item. It's easy enough, but it's also kind of out of the way, so I don't accidentally press it. And so this is an item slot that I use for an item like a TP scroll or boots of travel, or something that I don't really want to be using. And so that kind of segues us into explaining the reasoning behind why I have certain keys. And this is, I think, the most important part of this video, is that for me, as my hand is resting on the keyboard, I generally have my hand kind of on the QWER / the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 keys, which leaves me resting my thumb directly on the space bar. So this is the easiest button on the entire keyboard for me to press with my thumb. This is where I put very important items that need to have twitch reaction time, like a blink dagger, like a BKB, like a hex. This is probably my most important item slot. From there, I would say that maybe mouse 5 and X, or possibly even C. Mouse 5, X, and C are kind of like my next highest priority keys. Mouse 5 is one of the side buttons on my mouse. It's like a forward or back on an internet browser. And for me, this is very easy for me to press if I'm needing to do something constantly, but not wanting to take my hands off of other keys. So like phase boots goes here often. I also sometimes put BKB here. Like if I'm a blink hero, I'll have blink on space and BKB on mouse 5. X and C are also very easy for me to press. So I usually put items like an urn, a wand, a force staff, a abyssal blade, anything else that I need to press pretty quickly. Or target very well is usually here. V tends to be my most sort of throwaway slot. That's where I'll put something like a gem or an inactive item like an assault cuirass or something like that. That is just sort of a passive item that I don't need to press. And then, as I said before, B tends to basically always be my TP scroll. TP scroll is something that you should absolutely have on a key that you know exactly where it is, because there are a lot of situations where you can save yourself by just quickly TPing back to base. If you get ganked, they use their stun, and if you're fast enough and you know exactly where your TP scroll button is, you can TP out of very scary situations. But also you don't want to misclick that. So B is where I keep my TP scroll. If I were to get into some like super 6-slot late game scenario, my hotkeys do get a little bit messy, but I think that's just the case for everybody. And in that case, I would basically have the items that I need to combo fastest on space, X, and C. I'd still have probably like a BK. I'd probably actually move BKB to V just because I can press it and forget about it, and then it's on cooldown for a while. V could also be where I put a refresher orb. B is likely still going to be some sort of TP. And then mouse 5 would be another important item that I need to use either very regularly or extremely quickly. For some reason, for me, mouse 5 is very hard for me to click it and then also use my mouse accurately. So I wouldn't want to put something like a hex on mouse 5 because I wouldn't feel like I could do it fast enough to beat somebody else's reaction time. Let's just go ahead and look at a few examples real quick of using these keys. You can see that if I have like a hex, a nullifier, and an abyssal blade and a blink dagger, in this case I'm probably going to have blink here. I'm going to have my abyssal blade. You know, this is a little bit tough, but it's probably going to be the most important thing for me to do when I blink in is likely going to be hex. So I'm going to press space and then immediately hex the target. Then I can nullify, hit, and then press the abyssal blade when I need to. But it's just very, very important to have sort of like a clean hotkey setup, because the last thing that you want to be doing is in the heat of the moment, in a stressful part of the game, you don't want to just accidentally be, you know, you're running around and you're like, oh, I'm going to TP home. Oh, no, I BKB'd. Now I've just wasted a 10-second BKB. That's something that you absolutely do not want to have happen. Now, if we go back into the settings, you'll notice that I also have quick cast on. And this is something new to me, actually. In the past, for some reason, I just didn't feel comfortable using quick cast on items. So only in the last, I would say, couple of days have I been experimenting with quick cast on items. I think that probably both of these are optimal, at least from my perspective, because it allows you to do things much more quickly with less clicks on your mouse hand than you would be otherwise. So as you can see, like, I can go ahead and Hex Nullify and Abyssal Blade this guy very, very quickly, right? Just like this, I'm just hitting all three keys. If I were to do that without quick cast on, I would have to do a click in between each one. So it'd be X click, C click, V click. And I can do that pretty quick because I'm used to it. But it's definitely much slower than just hitting all three keys with my mouse over this. This is how you can do stuff instantly, like, you know, nullify a Bloodthorn somebody so that they have no chance to do anything. If I just press C and M5 at the same time, then he's instantly disabled completely, like that. And so in Dota, where mechanics play a pretty big role, at least reaction time mechanics play a pretty big role in team fights, having these hotkeys set up to be very, very efficient is something that you can do to drastically improve the way that you play the game.